As we limp our way over the fiscal finishing line for another tax year and head into the unknown, the money men are here to stick our fingers through the spokes of the financial wheel of misfortune and poke the eye of monetary misery. I'm James Gallimore. Welcome to this week's edition of Money Men. And as always, I'm joined by Saul Conway and Craig Bell. In today's show, we'll be reviewing the week's financial best buys and offering a bucket full of financial insight as to what's hot and what's not. Craig and Saul will be looking at ISAs. Remember, you only have a few days left until the end of the financial year when Alistair Darling snatches away your allowance. But before all that, let's look at this week's financial news bulletin. Right, news review. End of the financial year is almost upon us. Craig, tell me, what do people out there need to know?
Well, it's not a happy time for all those high earners out there. Anyone earning over £150,000 is going to get taxed at 50% from now on. What that means, it's even worse than it sounds. Due to the loss of the annual allowance and increased national insurance, 40p in every pound will go into your back pocket.
Goodness me, that obviously makes Alistair Darling extremely happy, but what can I do to try and reduce some of the tax?
Well, there's quite a lot of things you can do. The one I quite like is, though, to give money to charity. If you give a lump sum to charity, it reduces your tax bill and also does good for disadvantaged people out there. OK, well, obviously, Saul's a bit of a charitable case, so we can give all the money to him. Well, we could, but I don't think he'd use it on the right thing, okay, so we might leave that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll take it, then.
Saul, what would you recommend to everyone out there?
Well, as you said, it's the end of the financial year, so it's time to look in the past year and to make sure that you've used all the benefits that are out there to you. And one of the crucial benefits is your pension allowance. So you want to go, make sure you've made pension contributions and see if you've made the maximum.
Why do I want to put money in my pension? I was just going to stick in the bank account.
Well, pensions not only grow tax-free, but you actually get tax relief on the contributions themselves. What that actually means is the government give you some of your tax back into your pension plan, which of course creates growth as well. Right. It's a bit like you were talking with Craig, we're talking about saving tax, well this is a way of getting actually some back.
Right. The other big allowance, of course, this time of year is you lose your capital gains tax allowance, which is capital gains is the money you make on stocks and shares rather than your income. What can I do about saving some money there?
Well, you get £10,100 worth of gains before there's a tax liability. And then after that, they're going to charge you at 18%. So one of the things you may want to look at, if you've got stocks and shares to sell, is to sell them in two tranches, one this tax year, one next tax year, both with gains under 10,100 and you have no tax liability.
Well, you can also use things like ISAs, but we're going to leave that a bit secret because we're going to talk about them later.
Yeah, I think we are, aren't we? Yeah. This time of year, I always love, of course, not only the birds in the trees starting to sing, it's springtime, etc., but of course the housing market always tends to kick off just after the end of the financial year. One should always remember, of course, that if the housing market, a time when you actually want to sell your house, of course, you want to start to be thinking about preparing for that, to be able to hit the main rush of the housing market as it kicks off in April and May time. Any particular points?
Well, what you've got to remember, James, is there's now home information packs, or HIPs. You need to prepare that, and I think an estate agent can do it for you, but they do need to get prepared.
OK, all right, fair. Now, the other thing, of course, with selling houses is that if you want to get a good deal, you do it now. You want to go out there on the housing market before, of course, all the housing prices go up.
Absolutely.
So, brilliant. It's small and often overlooked, but can be quite useful, offering great rewards if placed in the right hands. Now, I'm not talking about Bernard Matthews giblets, it's your ISA, and Saul and Craig take a look at how to love them.
So, today we're going to find out exactly what an ISA is and what it can do for you. Craig, take it away.
OK, simply put, an ISA is a savings account with the added benefit of being tax-free. They're available to anyone over the age of 16.
OK, so typically there are two types of ISA. You can have your cash ISA and you have your stocks and shares ISA. Today, we're going to examine the cash element.
There's a limit to the amount you can invest every year. This year, it's £3,600, but from April the 6th, it goes up to £5,100.
OK, so it's going up, but what are the benefits of having an ISA over a standard savings account? Well, let's say that St John Smythe over here, he's been a sensible saver and he's been investing into an ISA. He's invested the maximum £3,600 every year for the last 10 years.
And let's assume that Dave has been less savvy and just saved every month into a standard savings account. Over the same period, they would have invested exactly the same amount of money. But will they still be worth the same amount now?
Well, I'm made up. Over the 10 years, I've managed to save enough money for a spanking new gaff. Lovely jubbly.
Oh, that's great, Dave. Marvellous. However, I've managed to save the same deposit for the house, and I've got this cracking little runaround as well. Whoa, what-o!
Thing is, I've been getting taxed on my interest.
Whilst mine's been growing faster in a tax-free environment. Huzzah!
I think I might get one of those ISAs.
So, there you have it. We recommend, where possible, you should always try and maximise your ISA savings.
And remember, always do your research. You can do that by logging onto our website for more details. And please keep watching, because as well as finding out this week's top ISA, in part 2, we're also reviewing this week's best buys.